Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Well, since it's the end of the week, actually it's the middle of the week, but it's time for another trucking market update and forecast. Now, most of you guys really liked the old format, so I brought it back. But yeah, let's go ahead and chat about capacity, volumes, rejections, spot versus contract rates, and then we'll get into the spot market for dry vans, reefers, and flatbeds. And at the end of this video, I'm going to go a little bit into our operations to clarify certain things. Ready? Let's go! All right, first, the net change in carrier population. Not the greatest news this week. This week, it increased by 49 carriers net. All right, next we have the volumes chart. And again, white is us in 2024, blue is 2023. And we can see that the volumes are continuing to be higher than 2023 levels, and they are going up right now, as you can see. Now let's take a look at rejections. Well, rejections are doing surprisingly better than expected, I would say. So as you can see, way higher than 2023 levels, but the thing is they're continuing to go up, and currently rejections are at 4.9%. So we're slightly below that 5% mark, and being below that mark means contraction of the market, but we're just slightly below that at this point. Next, we have the spot to contract market, and again, the dark blue here is 2024 compared to 2023. So actually, the higher it is, the lower the gap between spot and contract carriers. Currently, contract carriers are earning on average 62 cents per mile more than those spot carriers. Finally, we have diesel prices. This line is us in 2024, and the one above it is 2023. Diesel prices have been doing relatively well, especially compared to 2023. But unfortunately, they did tick up slightly as of yesterday. Now, currently, diesel prices are at $3.82 per gallon on a national average. All right, now let's start talking about the spot market, starting with those dry vans. So rate per mile last week was $1.98 per mile. This week, it's 3 cents lower. It's $1.95 per mile. Rate year over year is down by 2% for dry vans on the spot market, and over 5 years down 10%. Now, the volumes for dry vans compared to last week increased by 8.5%, but volumes year over year are down 1%, and over the past 5 years down 27%. Now, let's take a look at this map, and I made a table out of this map. So we have the outbound rejections and the outbound volume for dry vans. This is by Sonar, and this is the general market, not just the spot market. So from these two maps, we can tell that the top 5 volume states in the general market are Ontario, California, Dallas, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, Los Angeles, California, and Detroit, Michigan. If we're just looking at the rejection side, where are the loads getting rejected? Jacksonville, Florida, 17.2%. Then we have Tallahassee, Florida, 16.8%. Next, Tifton, Georgia, 16.4%. Savannah, Georgia, 16%. And Cedar Rapids, Iowa, 14.7% for dry vans. Now, in order to figure out what the better markets are on the spot market for dry vans, we have to put the two together to figure out where more volume from the contract side is hitting the spot market. And those top 5 places are Atlanta, Georgia, Ontario, California, Houston, Texas, Los Angeles, California, and Jacksonville, Florida. Next, we have reefers on the spot market. So last week, the average rate per mile on the spot market for the reefer was $2.39. This week, it's a 4-cent decrease to $2.35. Year over year, rates are down 3%, and over the past 5 years, they are down 8%. Now, just like with dry vans, volumes actually increased week over week by 12.6% for reefers on the spot market, but year over year, they're down 4%, and over the past 5 years, down 31%. Now, we're going to be looking at the same map for these reefers. We have the rejections, we have the volumes, and then the top 5. So in terms of volume in the general market for reefers, top 5 markets are Joplin, Missouri, Allentown, Pennsylvania, Lakeland, Florida, Ontario, California, and Joliet, Illinois. Now, if we take a look at where contract carriers are rejecting loads, which markets have the highest rejections, those are, I was surprised about this. Grand Junction, Colorado is on first place at almost 34%. Then we have Ontario, California, 28%, Los Angeles, California, same 28%, Quincy, Illinois, 23%, and Little Rock, Arkansas at 21.8%. But putting all of this information from these maps together to figure out where more volume is hitting the spot market from the contract market, well, the top 5 here are Ontario, California, Los Angeles, California, Fresno, California, Joplin, Missouri, and finally Fort Worth, Texas for reefers. Last but not least, flatbeds on the spot market. So rate per mile last week on average was $2.46. This week it increased to $2.47. So 1 cent difference. Now, rates year over year are down 5% for flatbeds, and over the past 5 years down 7%. But again, just like with reefers and dry vans, volumes did increase. For flatbeds, they increased by 18% since last week. But of course, year over year, they're down 1%, and over 5 years, they're down 34%. Now, I don't have those fancy maps for flatbeds from Sonar, but I make my own using Truckstop, and you guys really wanted them back after last week's video. So let's go. So this is the volume map. The darker it is, the more volume comes out of that state. It's not by market area, unfortunately. The lighter it is, the less volume. So as always, the plain states right here don't have as much volume for flatbeds. But in the south, there is more volume for flatbeds. Let's take a look at capacity. Same concept. The lighter it is, the less trucks in that area. The darker it is, the more trucks. So not really surprising. There are less trucks in the plain states as well as the Pacific Northwest for flatbeds. There are more trucks in the Midwest as well as the East Coast and the southern states, as we can see. Texas, Georgia, and Florida all have over 2,000 trucks there. But the question is that load to truck ratio. Where is the negotiating power? Where are there more loads than there are trucks? Red means overcapacity. These are places where there are way more trucks than there are loads. And you can see most of this is red. The whitish beige area is about a load per truck, so more or less balanced, right? Yellow, which is Louisiana and Oregon, this is about 2 loads per truck. And the green states, Arkansas, Mississippi, and Alabama, are over 4 loads per truck, which means that in the green states, you're going to have the highest negotiating power. Brokers are having a hard time finding capacity to move their loads in those areas. Now, in terms of the market update, I really have nothing to add. Everything is pretty clear cut. But in terms of our operations, we definitely changed a lot in order to keep going. We downsized, we completely changed our routes and lanes, and we're waiting to see how things progress. But for now, we're continuing to cut, and live as lean as possible, all while watching our numbers through a microscope. Now, there's one gentleman named David who is very active in the comments, and he asked a very, very valid question. He was really confused, and he said that it's very strange that after expenses, I was upset about the fact that our net income went from $23,000 back in April of 2023 to $14,000 per month in April of 2024. And he said, and I quote, "Your April 2024 numbers and the cents per mile numbers you often throw around when speaking of our 2024 market absolutely cannot be reconciled. This is not an accusation, but can you explain?" Very valid question. By the way, I'm sorry if you see some smoke here. I'm burning incense for the first time in my life because I need to zen out a little bit. But My rate per mile is often high, especially as of late since we changed our lanes and routes. The last 2 loads that I booked for my business partner were both over $4 per mile. But why are my rates higher than the average? Well, it's not because I'm smarter or I'm more talented. No, not at all. It's because of 3 big things. Number 1, I am very careful about which markets I send my trucks to, and 99% of the time we end up in really, really good markets. Number 2, I'm the queen of waiting brokers out. I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but I am the queen of waiting people out. I can sit and wait for hours and hours and hours, up to 9 hours a day, easy. And because of that comes number 3, which is luck is very often on my side, if you can call it that. I end up getting a lot of stress sales. Now, in terms of the $14,000 net on the truck in April of 2024, this is a business partner operated truck. No payroll, skin in the game, an absolute nightmare of a life type of operation. If you think that this is the same or a similar net that I'm making off of our hired folks, you are wrong. For example, and I'm looking at the numbers right here, one guy who ran for 22 days out of 30 back in April of 2024, so a few months ago, brought a profit of $721 for the whole month. The gross was $27,625. How the heck does this happen? Well, very easy. Payroll, reimbursements, style of driving, which for this particular gentleman meant higher fuel expenses. This is the market right now, and this is a more or less good month. This $721, as crazy as it sounds, that was a pretty good month. So it's night and day when comparing a business partner's operations or of a person who is driving under their own numbers to someone who is hired. Needless to say, we try, we learn, we change, we adapt, and sometimes adapting means taking 20 steps back in order to be able to move forward. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching and joining me today. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week and weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep learning. See you in the next video.